I'd really like for you now to consider your purpose and your soul calling, your passion. What is this really about? Because a lot of people chase it to be an end goal or a destination, or be something that it is that they're doing in order to really be experiencing their life in the way that they think that it should be. And what I want to propose to you actually is that it's a gift that leads you further into the journey of reconnection to yourself. It's a doorway. So I'd really like for you to consider during this session that it's not an arrival point, it's not a destination. And in fact, it's something that when you discover it and embody what it is, it leads you further and further into yourself, in connecting with others. It creates inspiration, excitement. It's like a quest for awakening and reconnecting to your own deep inner wisdom. And really, for me, it's the way for the soul to communicate with you. And so what happens there is, instead of placing emphasis on the outcome, the end goal, the physical deliverable, shift your mindset, actually then you can be just in the journey of it all. And you can just really start to enjoy both the highs and the super lows that still happen. But with this then, especially with the business, what actually happens is that the business is our greatest opportunity for spiritual development and personal growth. That's something that I certainly 100% subscribe to. So when people say, go and live your purpose, go and live your soul calling, your passion, really with this, I guess, that's asking you, if you feel like that calling is through a business, to step into your greatest opportunity for spiritual development and personal growth. And so that can be brought into every day in service to self, right? So here's how I see it. And I'll just show you, because I have got no slides today because we're going live through Facebook. So I want to show you through something that I've just prepared earlier. And I don't know how well you can see it, but I will take a photo as well and stick it into the snapshot of what's going on. So here on this side, you can actually see this is what I have downloaded as the soul strategy methodology, right? And where it actually moves into, just move around the camera a little bit there, is that this is the journey of the self. So what happens in our spiritual awakening and our coming into our own intuition, intuitive powers, and learning how to be in this free will space, it actually starts with observation and growing awareness around how it is that your intuition is actually coming to you in the first place. Because what happens is that if we don't even have any awareness around how it's even coming to us, then it's almost like there's no way for us to see it, to recognize it, to be able to trust it, to be able to see patterns, to be able to gain data and gain evidence so that we can understand what it is that's coming to us and how to interpret it. So from there, that's really about the physical and psychological intuitive channels opening up, and for you just to be receiving through awareness. And then from there we move into relationships. And so relationships is really about not only external relationships, but internal relationships. It's the way things relate to each other in relation to. So for that area, it's really about tuning into the emotional intuitive channel and coming to a place of mindfulness and doing in that space. And so from a place of only doing one thing at any one time, we're cultivating this mindfulness practice. And what this really creates is a sense of presence, is a sense of purpose, is a sense of empowerment. So from there we move around into vocation. And vocation is your business, or it can also be if you're still in a career, or perhaps your vocation actually is to be a mum or a dad, and you're in that service to your children. So the idea in vocation is that we start to work into inspiration, and inspiration really is about guidance and inspired thought. And it's really working into those mental and higher psychological channels in receiving information. And then the last point we move around to in our intuitive development, in helping us to understand more about our purpose, is actually in finances. So finances is really your business finances if you have a business, or it's also your personal finances and how they play out in your reality, your physical reality. And so really that space is about restoration and flow, finding a place where things just seem to work together and things just come together and things are attracted to you and money turns up by you taking this inspired action down in vocation. So really that's opening and working through our spiritual channel. And then what happens is that cycle completes and it comes back to self. So for me, it all starts and ends with self, right? And so your self practice is really the main practice for you to really live into and really get an understanding of. But really, what does this have to do with purpose? Well, let's just take a moment, and I'd like to invite you to close down your eyes again for a minute and just really come to a place of just sitting comfortably. Take a deep breath in, really feel your back straight in the chair, your feet on the floor, and what I'd like to lead you into seeing in your mind's eye is a major moment in your life where you just felt like I'm different, right? And this generally this moment is around about the age of 13 or 16. It's an insightful moment where it's really just being in a situation or an experience where you all of a sudden just feel like, yeah, I'm something, it's just, I'm different here. And then I'd like you to consider, when you have that in your mind's eye, a time when you're a young adult, maybe around about the age of 18 to 21, and you're looking for a moment where you kind of feel like I'm on my own. And it's an experience of all of a sudden you just realize that there's this whole big world out there and you feel as though you're on your own, whether that's a feeling of loneliness or isolation or where you're just on your own physically. And then I'd like you to come to a point where in the last 2 years where you've just really resolved to be yourself, to start showing up in your life as yourself, and you've decided, I'm just going to take all the masks off. They're all coming off today, and that's just how it is. And when we get to that moment, what we start to realize is that these are all identities of self. And really, these identities of self, if you need to, I'd just like you to breathe in those identities, and as you breathe them out, exhale them from your body. And as you're breathing them out, just think of one word, a sound, or a symbol that actually signifies what they feel like to you. Now, in those moments, if you now feel like you need to just jot something down or journal or whatever that it is, just feel free to do that as I keep talking. And if you have anything that you feel like you need further support on that comes up, please just send me a private message and I'll be happy to just support you through that, just in case there's anything that's a little bit confronting that comes up for you. And so really what we want to do is clear these things through awareness. And once we bring them into our awareness, we can actually embody them and go through the process of embodying what they are and what their meaning is and what's coming up for us, because all of these things are information and they're just coming up in order for us to acknowledge them, receive the message, and then process them, liberate them, set them free. Like there's no point in attaching to them and hanging on to them. So as you have brought each one of those through, just use the breath to really breathe them out and, liberate them once you've received the message of what it is that they want to tell you. So now what we're actually going to look at is the platinum thread that runs through them. So this is the platinum purpose point. And again, if you are comfortable, just close down your eyes. And what we're going to consider this time is key milestones, key moments of flow in your life. As you breathe in this time, take yourself to a place where you feel like you're absolutely winning at life. You are the king or queen of the world. You're kicking goals. You're living into absolute flow. Everything just seems to be coming together and just working to perfection. And now, understand that from your life roles point of view. So what you want to be looking at here is, in those moments, what was the role that you were actually performing? So for some, this might be as a mum. For some, this might be as career roles. But these roles that we're playing at those points in time can tell us a lot about a story. So if we're to use this framework with the dots, if we were just to consider then our different careers that perhaps we were interested in or we felt called to do. So for me, one of them was a sales career, which fits into relationships, right? But if we even just use the structure, sales, for me, project management, sales, project management, account management. Sorry, I'm laughing because I've just realized just how heavily this purpose stuff still lives through the work that I'm doing every day. And how each of the channels are actually bringing through part of my purpose. So, yeah, it's just messages that I'm getting as I'm talking about this work at a deeper level yet again. And so I think that it's really interesting here that when we start to write down and recognize the roles that we've played in our lives, where we really feel like things are winning for us, like we're winning at life, these actually form up part of our purpose. These are actually why we're here. And I think that it's really important for us to experience that and embody that, and for us to understand what is it that drew you to each one of those roles. What was it that got you to the point of, if it was in career, why accounts over a design role? Why would you choose barista over a graphic artist, right? So there's reasons that have drawn you to each one of your experiences in your life. And this really, for me, starts to become the center of what is your purpose, what is your soul calling, what is your soul trying to communicate with you in order to lead you to a specific point for your soul to express itself in this physical world. And I really think the last point in that is, what are the values that you're honoring in your life? So for me, it's really about, there's a lot of adventure in there. There's a lot of discovery, experimentation, truth and trust I really honor. Love I really honor. And so these values actually form up part of, again, your purpose and your soul calling, because they fall into and support what your intended experience is that your soul is trying to call forward for you. So really it's about coming to a place for us to experience our purpose as an ongoing life journey. But really the point is, when we get to the middle, and I'll just flip back and show you this other side now, as best I can. Hopefully that shows up okay. So when we get to the middle, this is our why. This is our platinum purpose point, right? And as you can see, the colors here correspond with the spiritual channel over here. So our why is actually being driven from the soul. It's being driven from the spiritual channel. And so then what happens is that the what comes up. And the what actually then is formed as part of, so we start working backwards in this intuitive understanding, right? And so the what then forms part of the vocation stuff. How is it going to show up through the mental for us to cerebrally create the reality, and also using the higher psychological channels, so really tuning into guidance and having that guidance come through you in order to manifest, rather than just relying on the intellectual intelligence of the mind in order to create what needs to be created. And then from there we move into the when. And so the when is really, it's really attached, or what's the right word? The when is really influenced by the emotional channel. So moving backwards, we're now back around at relationships, right? So the when actually is very much influenced by that emotional channel. And when it comes about in your life will be the right timing for you. It'll be in the perfect time and space sequence that you need to be receiving that experience in. And then we move out to the how and the where. So as you can see, we're back around at the self, back around at the awareness point. So really working into the physical and the learned behavioral psychological channel for us to determine the how and where. And so actually when you're working into purpose work, many of these circles don't even matter anymore. So the consideration and the amount of time and energy that gets put into these outer layers becomes less and less and less as you start working into the more completed intuitive experience. So coming to the point of understanding your purpose is very, very relevant, because your purpose is your soul calling. It's what's driving everything else. And so when we work into it in that way, quite often we'll come to a gateway of experience. And what happens with that gateway of experience, right? This is your purpose point coming to your front and center in order for you to pay attention to what it's trying to get you to experience in this life. So what happens is these three doorways show up. And quite often, if we're not living into awareness, we actually can miss these doorways sometimes, and they go round and they kick us in the ass for a second go and get us to pay attention a second time. But generally, each time they go round, they get firmer and firmer in their direction and in what they want you to do or want you to experience. So doorway number one is pretty much the same that you've already had, right? So you're facing the three doors, and door number one is the same you've already had. Door number two is a slight difference, right? And then door number three leads you further and further into self and into the fully embodied spiritual experience. And so what happens when we stand at that gateway, we make the choices based on the information that's coming through the intuitive channels. So if we have a fully open and understanding awareness channel, then what we're able to do is we're able to stand there and see what is coming in which channel and how it is that we can actually translate this information into taking inspired action, right? Because our experience is determined by those decisions that we're creating out of those channels. So moving it from being in this awareness space to being in the being doing space. So if there's one thing that you are called to do that day in order to help you to understand this information a little bit more, so that might be doing a meditation or doing a walk in nature. But these things have a sole point to be able to call us further into self in order to embody the information that's coming in, and then to really work into the inspired guidance that's coming out the other side. So when we talk about manifestation, manifestation is actually the embodiment of the guidance and then created into inspired action. right? So it's not a cerebral function. It's not, I want $1 million and I'm thinking it with my intellectual level and therefore $1 million appears. What's actually happening in the process is the vibration that's coming through with the information is then being embodied, and then you're taking inspired action to actually create it and create it in the physical. So it already exists in the formless. And so what you're doing is when you're pulling it through, you're actually pulling it through to embody it, translate it into what it's telling you to experience, and then creating it in the physical. I hope that makes a bit of sense to you. So that's really where I see the platinum purpose point coming into it, because when you're working through purpose, you're really working into that flow space, and you're calling in vibrationally what it is that your soul is wanting you to experience. And so the tools that I work with for myself and for clients, there's something that I've brought through called a resonance anchor. And it's really about creating an anchor point that solidifies your purpose. So it really helps you to embody and come from that place first. Anytime when you sit down to do client work or create something new, or if you are trying to make major life decisions, it really helps you to become centered and come right into your highest self in order to be able to make these decisions, or these come and manifest these creations. And so some other tools though are presence. So it's really important to come to a place of presence to experience that embodied purpose point. And also then the primal brain, so the reptilian brain, actually, and both presence, breath and heartbeat are the ones I've got written up here. They're all to do with that reptilian brain. So what happens is when your reptilian brain kicks in, it's trying to get you to survive. So it's kicking in anything that doesn't fit in the normal patterning and turning it into fear, right? And fear just lives at the edge of your comfort zone. So this is the edge of your comfort zone around all of this life areas. Fear lives there. So any time that you're coming to a place of doing something that you haven't experienced before, you're bumping up against the ring of fear, right? So you're bumping up against it and really having to experience what that fear feels like. So that's that primal brain kicking in, trying to keep you safe, right? And the primal brain is controlling the presence, the breath, the heartbeat, our vital functioning to keep us alive. So what happens then is that it then has an effect on the physical body, and the physical body, the breath becomes shallower and the heartbeat becomes quicker. And we feel like that we're in a life or death situation. But what's really happening is that we're bumping up against the edge of our comfort zone. So it's really kind of important for us to be in this awareness space and understand when we're in that experience, because that experience has a message for us. And it's really about understanding the emotion of fear and understanding what it is that it's trying to tell us, to then be able to translate it into inspired action. And because all it's coming up for is to be completed and then liberated. It's a messenger, right? It's information in an energetic form coming to you as a feeling, an emotion, a thought. These things are just messages. So really they link back to the purpose, because when you're sitting in the middle of your purpose and you're having this fear come up, it's so relevant for you to just sit there in observation of it. Don't buy into the story about what it's about, but really just be with it and allow, ask it some questions, allow it to tell you what it is that it needs to tell you, because there's a message there. So I guess that's really about it for today. And I did say this would be 45 minutes, but it's almost near half an hour now. And if you have any questions, jot them below in the post, or, I'll come back after this also and check. And if you're watching the recording, thank you very much for sticking through and catching it. And thank you to those who joined me live. I really appreciate your assistance and support in joining me live and hearing about this wisdom today. And thank you for making the time for you, because really that's what it's about for me. It's all about the self, and it all comes back to the self. So thanks so much, and hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.